All right. We saw Paul winning game 1, even through a lot of disruption. Now we're here in game 2. Of course, if Paul wins this game, he will win the match. And therefore, the first prize, Savannah, that you can win here in the MGM in Berlin. We still have Paul on the left with Artifact Combo and Max on the right with a Grixis aggro control deck, you would say. Lots of cards in the opening hand.
Yeah, it's lots of counter spells in Max's hand with the Deathrite Shaman and the Fetch.
Both of them seem great, right? Paul has Fastbound and Brainstorm in the Fetch land, which is kind of
this is a great hand. Yeah, Fastbound obviously also one of the broken cards, one could say, in the Academy deck. This is gonna work out really bad for Max. If he keeps his hand, because he has Fetch and Deathrite, he's gonna get it killed by a Pirate Spellbomb, which you do not expect that your 1-drop gets killed from the
right, and then you assume, like, I'm working with 2 mana here, right? Because we have the Fetch land and the Deathrite.
Exactly, and a lot of counter spells.
Yeah, and then, awesome. Okay, so, Max.
And he can't fetch a Volcanic because he wants to deploy the Deathrite Shaman. This is going to work out really bad. Yeah, he has to fetch the bad lands here.
It's literally a bad land.
Not the worst land, because it's a basic mountain in the deck, but it's also not great, yeah.
But if I see this correctly, Paul can't kill it right now. Right from this day, because the Flighted Strand needs to make green, and then there's one artifact missing for the Mox Opal.
That's true.
So let's see, this is important.
Oh my god, yeah, that's exactly the land he needed to make the red mana. Can get a Tropical probably here with a Flooded Strand. Then, that is, I mean, you are pretty much 100% sure your Deathrite lives here if you're on Max's side, so that is going to be a surprise for him.
The awkward part
also, very noticeable, if the Academy player slams his Fetch land like this and fetches Tropical, you can be 100% sure they have a fast one.
Right now, Paul kind of doesn't have a lot of gas besides the Brainstorm. But
Inventor's Fair is kind of gassy, I think.
Yeah.
It's very expensive, but...
Wow. This is
so brutal.
So Max now needs to draw a land and...
draws best card in the deck, obviously. Second Death Threat off the top.
All right, fetch land here for Paul, which is great. So Brainstorm kind of works as a draw 3, as we know it from Legacy, and we see Phyrexian, Furnace, Preordain, and Featherstone, which are, well, not the worst, but also not the best.
Preordain is pretty good. The rest is, I mean, you are not really sad about mana development in this stage of the game. I mean, we also have to remember it's turn 2, right? He's going to have like 7 permanents on the battlefield.
Yeah, we saw in the last game where Paul had a lot more mana than Max and could deploy a few more spells, and that is also very helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Featherstone. Featherstone kind of awkward because it doesn't make blue.
Also pretty unexpected against Grixis.
Yeah, and Paul realizes that here right now that it can't make Preordain mana. It's like, come on, opponent, just can't you get blue, man? It's like, do I have to do it myself?
To be fair, if you're against Grixis and your Featherstone doesn't make blue, you're probably in a good spot.
That's a good point. I like it. So here you kind of want just one really big action card, right? 1 draw 7 and you're just
exactly
so well into this game.
I mean, he has 5 mana 2/1 right now, so he's super far ahead on mana. He just needs to convert his mana advantage into some business here.
So Preordain, Scry 2. Frantic Search is
not really business right now.
It is nice. Like, it looks deeper than just one card, but those are the moments where
you have to wait till next turn.
Those are the moments where you have to guess, like, is it worth? And he
keeps 3.
That is a smart move. He keeps the Tree of Tales because he needs the 3rd artifact for the Inventor's Fair. Right? He says,
that's right. Yeah,
I will have business once getting to 3 artifacts. And as we talked about in the last game, you can get the memory jar, and memory jar gets you 2 more cards, and then you're just good. Here, not forget the life, right? 1 life from Juventus Sphere.
Max top decked the best land in his deck, Underground Sea, which is obviously great with his plethora of counter spells he has in hand.
Ooh, and now we're kind of in the spot where the cards Paul can get are not enough to fight through the counter spells. I mean, yeah, Mana Leak and Miscalculation are somewhat soft to all the mana.
Exactly. They are getting progressively worse with time against Academy, because you have to in my experience, you have to pretty aggressively counter mana with these kind of soft counters, because they are dead very, very quickly in this matchup.
But it still counters a memory jar as of now. And since Paul doesn't have a lot of cards, he's not going to develop the mana any further very quickly. Phyrexian Furnace here, he does a nice job in keeping the Delph cards at bay, which is also not something you would expect to happen.
Agreed.
Ooh, Crucible. That is
great. To get a combo with Inventor's Fair to basically have an artifact tutor every turn, that's pretty sweet play here.
Yeah, here you can see all the experience, right, from Paul, knowing that I know what my deck does and how to loop everything. And one could say, like, oh, Memory Jar does a lot of great stuff because we get all the cards, but he doesn't need to do that right now. He can just develop a certain stream of cards, and Crucible is certainly very good at it.
Yeah, it's a recursive engine that is definitely going to win him the long game if it resolves, which is probably not going to.
Here we see the Moto bug in the Frantic Search getting drawn from the top. All right, Crucible, yep, it's gone.
And now we see one of these cases where he has a decent amount of mana, but not really business. I mean, he can cycle his Phyrexian Furnace. Frantic Search kind of needs some cards first.
And since Max only had to use the Mana Leak, the counterspell is still countering everything he wants. So Paul needs to have 2 very impactful spells. And if you know the deck is powerful, but doesn't have a lot of those cards that get you out of something.
Exactly. I think right now Max is feeling pretty good. I mean, the Academy deck can brick, obviously. I mean, it has 49 mana sources in the deck, so it's like almost half the deck is going to be mana. So here he decides to not keep up the counter spell he actually has and deploy a threat.
Ooh, that is risky. That is interesting.
Yeah, but he kind of needs to, because the Furnace is eating away at his graveyard. So if he wants to get down a threat, he has to pick his timing very well. So he has to do it as soon as possible, because if the Phyrexian Furnace keeps eating away at his graveyard, he's not going to get to deploy his Death Threat at any time soon.
So what he said is, I know you looked for the Crucible. I know you played the Crucible, so it's very likely that you don't have anything relevant anymore. So my best bet is to do it now and hope to get through, right?
Yeah, he set his Gomek Angler up this turn with a Sword Scour, so it basically was his only time to play it here before the Furnace was eating another card. It was exactly enough mana with the Sword Scour in his turn to get the Gomek Angler down here. So it basically was the only time to do it here.
And we see that Paul drew a Tainted Pact, and that is dangerous. That can get out of hand very quickly.
But obviously Max drew a Force of Will to go with 2 other blue cards in his hand, so he has any business covered, so it's obviously also a good point to get the threat down if you have the free counter spell as a backup. Basically the best time to get the Angler down here, because you basically can't die to anything here with a Force backup. And if you get to untap with a counter spell and a Gomek on board, you are a huge favorite, I think.
So Paul goes for Frantic Search. Ooh, Expedition Map and Time Spiral. That is
That's what we call business.
Yeah, back in business here. So
has to discard 2 here.
How do you decide in those spots which of the cards you actually going to keep? Because all of them do something.
I mean, he can't cast a Time Spiral right now. But it's obviously the on
best
first
card.
value most powerful card.
So is it... Paul didn't play a land right now, right? So he could technically look for Academy, play it, and then play... No, that wouldn't be enough. But then it would be Academy and play. So he could now look for Academy.
Which would be enough because it is Tree of Tales there, which would net him 3 mana.
Oh, and that's the gamble Paul is going to do, because that would certainly be one of the best lines if the Academy is far enough in the top part of the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always a little bit dangerous if you're searching for a specific card with Tainted Pact. Sometimes it's the last card or the first.
So now pondering on an Academy that costs 1, which would be not enough.
Exactly, which would leave him 1 short of casting the Time Spiral here. So that's actually a really hard decision here, because you have to delay 1 turn and then your opponent gets to untap with all his three blue mana, and then you are not sure it's going to reverse. So I think he makes the right decision here, skipping the crop rotation.
Yeah, let's see. Mindstone. Oh, Swan Song, Workshop, Hedron Archive. No, Sylvan's Grind, kind of a worse crop rotation. Tundra, Land, Demonic Tutor. Now you know he's going for.
I think he's committed to the Academy right now, because it's just a very game-winning play if he gets down the Time Spiral this turn.
You just have to keep in mind what you're exiling, right? Because at one point you can't win. Gemstone Cavern, Relic, Thoughtcast, all of those are certainly not good enough now. Mox. Yeah.
Buried Ruin.
Get back an artifact, but what do you want to get back?
Yeah, I don't think he has anything particularly impressive right now.
Oh, so he takes Durin, great.
Oh, he discarded what did he discard?
The Tran Dynamo is in the graveyard, and the Phyrexian Oven, I think. Also, there's the Spell Bomb. The Crucible, definitely.
The Crucible. Okay, okay. Exactly, yes, the Crucible ends Inventor's Fair still in the sitting in the graveyard there.
Okay, Ordering gets Crucible, which is now getting pretty dicey, because Gomag Angler hits hard. Oh, Toxic Deluge is an answer, but it's also fairly dangerous.
Yeah, because the Toxic Deluge life loss is part of the cost. So even if you...
It is prairie.
Would go down to 6 and then you get the counter, then you're dead to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, with Paul at 11, meaning he could actually take 2 hits of the Angler and still be alive, but that would cut him off fetch lands or other spells that cost him life.
Yeah, so and you preferably would not like to go to 1, because it's obviously you're playing against the Lightning Bolt, Kolaghan's Command, Chain Lightning deck.
Which would make those cards actually viable.
Which could just cut the clock by 1 turn, so he preferably would like not to go to 1 and win at 6 life, reanimate. Not particularly great here.
I think, I'm not sure if that is correct. It can get the Deathrite Shaman, which would make...
That's actually true. That's
a second kill option on board, although Paul is not going to destroy a lot of creatures. There's Bridge, right?
It actually would cut the clock by 1 turn, so I'm actually not sure why he did not do it here.
Time Spiral says, nope, pay 2 more. Such a great spot to actually... because the graveyard... We see the graveyard now is
as exiled by the
sideways.
Gomag Angler. Yeah, it's
and it's sideways.
Actually, Desert is exiled, so
there's actually no target for the ring.
Exactly,
okay, yeah.
That's the explanation.
Liliana doesn't do anything, so now you just hope.
Force back up, so this game is basically over, I think. He's going to try to resolve the Twister here, probably.
Yeah, so you see that artifacts are dangerous, of course. If any of those cards would have happened, Paul would have had a huge advantage, but only a few spells that denied those cards were enough with some clock to kill Paul.
I mean, he needed 3 counter spells, so you need a lot of permission. And we saw also that Academy deck is a very resilient deck. He got his Crucibles, and he got a Lance, and got his Crucible back, which could gotten back the Inventor's Fair, and then the whole chain starts, and you basically just lose. So the deck is very resilient to disruption, and this time he could pair the disruption with the clock, and in succession won the game. So that's basically the recipe you have to enact playing against Academy, and Max did, and now we are at 1-1.